Now, welcome back. One of the big stories today, more than 20 world leaders, including the US President Donald Trump, Middle East leaders, and the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, will today attend the Peace Summit in the village of Sharm El-Sheikh in Egypt, where a Gaza peace agreement could be signed. Now, the deal was initiated by Trump as part of his 20-point peace plan for Gaza, peace plan agreement. Now, to be implemented in phases, the key details include both Hamas and Israel exchanging prisoners and hostages today, and Israel allowing aid to enter Gaza, and of course a long-term ceasefire in the enclave. Now, to talk to us more about the Peace Summit in Egypt and its possible outcomes, we joined virtually now by Dr. Oscar van Heerden, a Senior Research Fellow for the Center for African Diplomacy and Leadership at the University of Johannesburg. Dr. van Heerden, thanks for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina.
So great anticipation this morning, of course, on both sides, both in Gaza and in Israel, for the exchange and the release of hostages, dead and alive. So talk to us about what you make of this first phase of that 20-point plan.
Yeah, Sakina, I mean, as you've indicated, it's still at a delicate stage. There has been agreement on phase one, which is a token of goodwill from both sides. In order for us to engage in phase two, let's show goodwill and release hostages, dead and alive, or alive, as you say. At least 20 of the Israeli hostages are still alive. We are made to understand 28 are deceased. And of course, Israel would want both alive and deceased hostages to be returned. Hamas has agreed to this. And in return, the Israelis will release about 250 prisoners that has been languishing in Israeli jails for a very long time, including an additional 1,500 detainees. As you said, about 2,000 from the side of Israel, and of course, about the 50 or so from Hamas to Israel. This is phase one, Sakina. There's, of course, phase two, and this is what the Peace Summit is about in Egypt, to try and negotiate on the very controversial and outstanding matters. And we must remember there are three very pertinent issues that still needs to be negotiated. The one is around the governance of Palestine. As you know, Trump is suggesting some international board of sorts. The Palestinians are not very happy about that because they want to determine their own governance issues. Two is about how far the Israeli troops are going to withdraw in the Gaza Strip. And third is this controversial issue around the disarming of Hamas. So still lots to talk about.
Indeed. And of course, there is skepticism, but also fear that beyond the release and exchange of hostages, this plan could fall flat. Do you share that skepticism, Dr. van Heerden? Absolutely.
We've seen before, Sakina, that the partnership of Netanyahu and Trump cannot be trusted. We must remember that the United States, under the direction of Trump, suggested that the peace talks must happen with the Iranians, only to find that its close ally Israel had a sneak attack and killed most of the negotiators, including the top brass of the military in Iran. Of course, Trump at first denied that he knew about it, but it came out later that they were very much in cahoots. Then there was also, again, the Americans saying they want to talk to Hamas leadership, negotiate in Qatar, and there was a sneak attack by Netanyahu's government, and actually missiles were sent into Qatar. Again, Trump at first denied. They were told late, apparently, but it now turns out, no, they also knew about that. So I think Hamas and everyone involved in this peace deal is looking at this with a certain skepticism. They're hoping that Netanyahu, in particular, the war criminal Netanyahu, can stick to the agreement. We've seen on previous occasions that he is the one that breaks the peace deal. So I'm very skeptical. Now that all the hostages are going to be returned, Hamas will have very little leverage to negotiate with. and a resumption of the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians could happen, and Trump will just throw his arms in the air and say, I'm very upset about this.
Will he, though, given the magnitude of what's to happen in Sharm El-Sheikh today, given who will be in attendance, more than 20 leaders, you've got the United Nations Secretary General who will also be in attendance, Donald Trump himself expected to attend, and he has declared that there will be peace. But speaking to our correspondent earlier and listening to others, it seems as though Benjamin Netanyahu hasn't quite gotten that message.
Not only did he not get the message, we need to ask the question, Sakina, what is his extreme far-right coalition partner saying about this? We know that the likes of Smotrich, the likes of Ben-Gvir are not in favor of any peace deal. They want to ethnically cleanse the whole of Gaza, and they want to annex the West Bank. And they have threatened that if Netanyahu don't stick to the agreements, then they're going to break up his government. So it's very interesting to see what's going to happen over the next couple of days. I suspect, and I really strongly suspect, that the deal he made with them in order to cling and remain in power is, let us get the hostages back, let us quell the hundreds of thousands of Israelis that are protesting outside the Knesset in Tel Aviv and elsewhere in Israel. Let us make sure that the Israeli people can see that we brought back the hostages, because we all know, Sakina, the majority of those protesting for the return of the hostages are not saying that the genocide must stop. In fact, they are in favor of the genocide. Very few are protesting against the genocide itself of the Palestinian people. So once the hostages are back, I see no reason why Netanyahu is not going to play politics and satisfy his coalition partners by going back into the Gaza Strip.
So where would that leave Donald Trump? Because, again, he has been walking a tightrope here with Netanyahu on the one side and some of the other peace negotiators on the other side, most notably Qatar. And, you know, if this peace deal falls flat, what does that mean for him in the broader scheme of things?
You know, there's a lot of pundits in the United States, Sakina, are already of the opinion that Israel is leading the United States by its nose, that Netanyahu is in control of the Trump administration, that it is in control of Congress and the Senate in particular, because of the majority of support that AIPAC and other Zionist lobbies have given to the American politicians. So I don't think that Netanyahu is worried about Trump. We've seen time and time again when Netanyahu breaks the ceasefires, when he does what he wants to do, like, for example, the attack on Qatar, Trump capitulates. So I think that, you know, true peace, if we're talking of real peace, besides this 20-point plan, then we're talking about an end to the occupation. We are talking about Palestinians being free and have self-determination. These are elements that are not in the peace plan.
Speaking of self-determination, that could, of course, be, one of the sticking points here, because, again, it would seem as though everyone else wants to have a say in terms of what should and who should lead the Palestinian people.
Absolutely. And the truth is, Sakina, that the Palestinian people are intelligent enough and politically conscious enough to make that determination themselves. I don't see why. I mean, I'm sure majority of Palestinians are saying, why would you want to impose a board or a structure on us consisting of foreigners and not ourselves? And so I think that President Mahmoud Abbas from the Palestinian Authority, as well as Hamas leadership and so on, needs to do some serious introspection. It's going to be a very sticky point. It's a colonial mentality. It's an occupation mentality that these people cannot govern themselves and we must govern them. And even talk of bringing in another war criminal such as Tony Blair to be part of such a board. It's so insulting to the Palestinian people.
Dr. van Heerden, you've just mentioned Tony Blair there, calling him a war criminal. You've referred to Benjamin Netanyahu as a war criminal. To those watching and listening who may be opposed to that, how do you defend that particular label that you ascribe to them?
Well, in the case of Tony Blair, it is what we wish for because he engaged in an illegal war in Iraq where millions, more than 1 million Iraqis were actually perished and died in that war, and nothing happened to him. There are popular calls that Tony Blair must still face justice with the International Criminal Court as a war criminal who have committed war crimes. In the case of Benjamin Netanyahu, he has an outstanding arrest warrant with the International Criminal Court. Israel might not recognize the court. The United States might not be a signatory to the court, but more than 150 countries are and subscribe to the Rome Statute. And since there's an outstanding arrest warrant, it says that there are war crimes that has been committed by Netanyahu and that he must come and face the trial as a war criminal.
And still so much to happen. But of course, we are expecting the U.S. president to touch down in Israel. We are expecting him to address the Knesset. And as you pointed out earlier, in that Knesset, you have the far right who are not in favor of this peace deal. So what do you expect Donald Trump to say in that address to the Knesset?
I think that the discussion between Trump and Netanyahu would be of such a nature where Netanyahu is going to ask President Trump to try and appease the far-right coalition partners. And the way to appease them is to say, let's get the hostages back. I still have my plan for transforming the Gaza Strip and returning it to its former glory and so on. And you would be part of that project. You know, I think that there's a secret deal possibly between Trump and Netanyahu that says, let's get the hostages back and let's see if we can still expel as much Palestinians as possible from the Gaza Strip so that we can turn it into this Riviera that has been spoken about.
Well, Dr. van Heerden, we'll leave it there. This, of course, a developing story, and especially looking forward to what's going to happen today. Donald Trump arriving in the Middle East, and of course, later on today, the discussions about this peace deal in Sharm El-Sheikh in Egypt. But thanks so much, Dr. Oscar van Heerden, Senior Research Fellow for the Center for African Diplomacy and Leadership at the University of Johannesburg, talking to us about that crucial peace summit being held in Egypt today that could decide the future and the outcome of Israel and that war in Gaza. Let us know your thoughts at Morning Live SABC.